your loneliness someday. With my hands, my lips, or how my hips sway. When I see you, there's a smile on your face, and I hope it stays there always. Don't lock the door when you're leaving. Don't lock the door when you go. Don't lock the door behind you, baby. And come back home when you need your loving some more. You lift me up if I have fallen. You seem to know everything I am wanting. You've seen me grow. You're the sunlight, for that I know. May the light always shine in your soul. And don't lock the door when you're leaving. Don't lock the door when you go. Don't lock the door behind you, baby. And come back home when you need your lover some more. I will cure your loneliness someday. With my hands, my lips, or how my hips sway. Ooh, when I see you, there's a smile on your face. I hope it stays there always. So don't lock the door when you're leaving. Don't lock the door when you go. Don't lock the door behind you, baby. And come back home when you need your loving some more. Come back home when you need your loving some more. Ooh, come back home when you need your lover some more. Come on, come on, come on.
Hi, you're listening to episode 41 of the Rugged Angel Cast, and I'm your host, Camila. Hey, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a pretty awesome day. If anyone hasn't told you recently, you're doing a great job. Whatever it is you're doing great. You might be listening to this on WMCK.FM, and if so, thank you, because we're going to be getting into some music with this episode. If not, if you're just listening to it on iTunes and SoundCloud, that does not diminish my appreciation for you listening. It's just you won't be able to get all of the great music that I get to play when we're running on WMCK.FM. So if you wanted to get to that, just go to WMCK.FM. On Wednesdays at 9 p.m. are the brand new shows, and then they repeat on Thursdays at 5 p.m. and Mondays at 10 a.m., but I think they might be changing it to 12 noon. Just go to the website, and you'll get a schedule. The song you just heard was Don't Lock the Door by this week's guest, Erika May, also known as Emay. You will be hearing more from that album, 3 Seasons, during the show. But before I get into why Emay is here and why she's so great, I want to thank everyone who came out to the Rugged Angel party at Spirit Lounge last week. I hope you had a great time because I did, and my goal was to get mad crazy steps on my Fitbit, and I did. So I worked it out. The music was great, the company was amazing, and we had pizza, and it was great. Like, I just had a really solid time, and I hope to do it again real soon, hopefully in the summer. And guys, did you know that Rex Manning Day is almost here? If you love the movie Empire Records, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The festivities are going to begin on April 8th at 6:30 p.m. You know April 8th is Rex Manning Day officially. So at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, April 8th, come down to the Oaks Theater. If you're in Pittsburgh, obviously, because we're going to be doing a special quote-along screening of Empire Records. There's going to be trivia, costume contest. Costume contest. There's going to be a record sale in the lobby with Jerry's Records and a lot more. There's going to be some drink specials too, I'm sure. Go to the Oaks Theater Facebook page. Go to the Oaks Theater website. I'll probably put something on my Facebook page and website. So I hope to see you there because I love Rex Manning Day and say no more, Monet more. So Erika May, let's get back to her. Erika May, a.k.a. Emay. Some of you may know her as a singer-songwriter. Some of you may know her as a fire thrower. Some of you may know her as a farmer. But no matter how you know her, you know that she is worth knowing. Erika is a delight. And I don't want, I feel like I need to find a better word to help describe how much I enjoyed. Erika's she's a very particular soul. A very particular personality. Not to say that it's bad, but it's really interesting. She kind of calms you down just by speaking. And she has a great speaking voice. She has a great singing voice. And you get to see that. You'll get to hear her great singing voice, obviously, from, I'm playing her songs on this set. But she's also surprised. She gave us a little live performance here. So that's going to be super fun for you. She has a great story about her discovery into her making music, and she also speaks really candidly about suffering from depression. So I look forward to you learning a little bit more about Erika May. So let's get into this. Today, take this with you. Be with the people who bring out the best in you. For me. Erika May, welcome to the Rugged Angel podcast.
Well, thank you.
Third time is a charm. Like, we've been running back and forth with this, time changes and mishits, but we got it together. And it's been so long since I've seen you.
It's been a while.
I don't know how long, really.
You did a video for Swan Days a few years ago.
Yeah, so that may have been like the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Did you, and I don't even recall, because how long has it been since you cut your dreads?
About 6 months. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, so I don't feel, all right, yeah, so
yeah.
I was kind of taken aback when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, the dreads
What
are
did
gone.
she do?
What are you doing? No, what brought on that decision?
You're not my friend anymore.
I don't know this woman.
Who are you? Who's knocking at my door? Yeah, it's funny. I had them for 13 years. And when you have one hairstyle for 13 years, people know you. And especially a visible one that you can see. It was halfway
Right.
down my back. And, I'd be walking down the street and 2 blocks behind me, someone would be like, Emay. They'd be like, oh, okay. So now I feel kind of invisible, which is actually really nice.
Kind of refreshing. You can kind of like move through without.
Yeah.
So what brought on that? Was there anything specific? You're just ready for a change, or?
I wanted to go swimming whenever I wanted without having to worry about how long my hair was going to be wet.
Oh God, yeah. And plus that was probably pretty heavy once they got wet.
Oh yeah. And it was like a 24-hour process in the wintertime to dry. Like even with a towel and all the shaking I could do, it was cold and wet for a day. So,
all right, so new you.
Yeah. 13 years is enough to, I loved it. It was great to have dreadlocks and yeah. I think the image thing too, I kind of had grown out of that part of my life. Yeah. So,
well, it's nice to move on, change a little bit.
Yeah.
So how is your weekend going so far? Like, I know you're no longer a Pittsburgh resident.
Yeah, but I'm always a Pittsburgher. It's funny now that I don't live in Pittsburgh anymore and people say, where are you from? Pittsburgh is still where I'm from, even though I didn't grow up here. My family is all from here, so I returned. My mom left for college. I grew up in Boston, and then I came here for college. So we kind of flip-flopped, and I wound up with her hometown as my hometown.
Nice.
And so I still claim Pittsburgh is like, where I earned my badges. And
yeah, that's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day about this too, is that I wasn't born in Pittsburgh, but I've been here since 98. And so whenever I'm outside of Pittsburgh, people are like, where are you from? I'm like, Pittsburgh. So it's just, it just kind of happens that way.
Yeah. I think when you move somewhere as an adult too, and you spend, 10, 20 years there, it's your home.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh is still my home, even though I live in West Virginia. I had this experience this time where I came back and I drove through the tunnel, and it wasn't like the the city thing that you would expect after being gone for. I've been gone for a few months. I just was like, oh, I'm here again, and it was such a comforting feeling because to know that I don't have to live here day in and day out. But I can still come back and it's home still. Right. I still know how to drive around.
Yeah.
I'll try and follow my GPS like I tried on the way here. I was like, you're just trying to get me lost. I know where I'm going. I know where Butler Street is. Shut up.
So you came in because you had a show this weekend? Yeah,
I co-direct Steeltown Fire, which is a fire dance troupe. And we had a show downtown at one of the gallery crawls for the Cultural Trust.
Nice. All right, so we're going to get there. But you said did you grow up in Boston?
I grew up in Boston. Okay. Yeah, south of Boston. Whenever I say I grew up in Boston, people are like, what part? What pot? I say, well, actually the South Shore. So I grew up south of Boston.
So what was that like? How long were you there for up until adulthood, until you went to college?
I was there, until I went to college.
Okay.
I graduated high school and got the heck out, as most high schoolers tend to, They either stick really close to home because they love it, or they want to leave and have big adventures, and I was in the latter category for sure.
Gotcha. Is Boston anything similar to Pittsburgh, or is there a vast difference?
Well, because I was south of the city, Boston's got a lot of sprawl. I was probably 40 minutes south of the city.
Okay.
And everyone still said you're from Boston. You're from the Boston area. So the area that I grew up in is actually closer to the area that I live in now than it was to, a city or a metropolitan area. It was very suburban. There were horse farms. We lived next to a place called the Bean Farm that was not actually, it was the last name of the family. They grew corn, not beans. Although I guess they probably had some other vegetables, but they had a little market, so we'd walk next door to the farm and get food and, we'd go to the grocery store too. It was still very suburban, very close to the city. So it had a lot of perks, like being close to a major metropolitan city if you wanted to go see Blue Man Group or go hang out in Harvard Square, But
so were you was your family like that, more in touch with the earthy and, like the natural foods and, things like that because of where you live? Were you guys already kind of, I don't want to say...
Yeah.
Hippie?
My mom was a hippie turned corporate woman, as I think a lot of,
so
the
she
hippies did.
She had that stuff instilled already.
Oh yeah. I found, photo albums of her and her boyfriend skinny dipping and stuff as kids, like, oh my God, that's my mom. Oh, yep, she's a hippie. But So when I lived in Boston, I kind of rebelled against that. I was a little metalhead as a kid, and the rock scene in Boston was really good. So
really,
yeah, listen to rock radio, and it was kind of a punk.
Metal kid.
I was.
I love it.
I had the Metallica T-shirts, and yeah.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, as far as the farming stuff and the close to the earth, we always had a garden. My first memories as a kid are either of music or of things like the strawberry garden. This isn't exactly a memory. It's more just one that I've been told. But my first steps were taken for strawberries. My mom was out back in the strawberry patch, and I'm sitting on the blanket, and she comes over with the strawberry, and I eat it. And she goes back to the garden. She turns around, and she's like, "Oh my God, she's walking!"
It's like, I need more strawberries.
Straight past her, straight to the strawberry patch. Give me more of that, Mom. I want it. So, yeah, I have a love for homegrown food for sure.
That's adorable.
But we always grew, the staples: zucchini, tomatoes, and squash and cucumbers. Yeah, and horses were around, so I did some horseback riding as a kid, and I feel like my upbringing definitely was close to the earth.
Okay. Do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
Really?
Yeah, I have 3 half brothers from my dad's first marriage, but they're more like uncles.
Gotcha. Were they way older than you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did they live close to you guys?
Yeah, I was closest probably to a brother that lived there, and he had 2 sons that are my age. So, it's kind of like having cousins, except they were nephews, and they're great family.
So were your parents musicians?
There's no. My first words to my mom were, "Mommy, don't sing." Oh. And the way she tells the story, she actually sings the song, the Joni Mitchell Circle Game song, and she said, "And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down." And I just look at her square in the eye and go, "Mommy, don't sing." And she, up until this point, I'd said, masterfully Zen-like statements like elephant waffles and, something worries. And so she had to ask again, "What did you just say?" I said, "Mommy, don't sing."
Kids are so blunt.
She has a wonderful voice, and we would sing around in the car. I think, she got me back when I was a teenager, and she said, we were driving down the road, listening to rock radio in Boston and just jamming and singing really loud. And she looks at me like with this look, and she just said, "When did you learn how to sing?" I took such offense to it in the moment. I was like, What are you talking about? I've always sang. And she goes, "Yeah, but something changed. You're good now." And I was like, I don't know how to take that. So,
right.
I'm a teenager, so of course I didn't take it well.
Right. There's a lot of pouting and grunting after.
Yeah, there was. But I mean, I remember that as like people said, "How long have you been singing?" And I count that moment as the first moment that I actually could sing.
So in your mind, you haven't done anything different.
Right.
Up until that point,
Nothing.
you're just at some point, apparently you were no longer tone deaf or like.
So, yeah. I must have really learned how to feel a song.
Maybe.
This radio song was really calling to me or something. Yeah.
So you've always loved to sing. Apparently.
Always.
And were you always writing songs as
Always.
well?
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. The first song that I ever wrote was just like standing at a bus stop, and I'd like have a little melody in my head and da 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 da, and I started singing a song that I don't remember the exact lyrics, or I'd sing it for you, but it was basically just like, "You tell me I can't do something, and I know I can, so I'm going to prove it to you." I'm like, whoa, okay, so I haven't changed much at all in my life.
Pretty strong. Do you remember how old you were?
Oh, I was probably 6 or 7.
Oh
yeah.
my God. That's great.
Mm-hmm. I have some fabulous early memories of music. I mean, when I think about the influence music has had in my life, I'm just like, I see it. I've always had this pull towards it. I remember the first time I saw live music on television, which was REM's "Losing My Religion." And it was like in the middle of a busy Thanksgiving. Thanksgivings are huge in my family. There's like 40, 50 people at least, big buffet of 4 turkeys, and it's huge. You should see the dessert table. It's fantastic. But yeah, so amongst all this commotion, there's a TV on, and then there's REM, "Losing My Religion." And I am just glued.
And this is the them performing live?
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
like at the early advent of MTV, like
Okay.
I'd say mid 80s, late 80s. I don't know exactly. I was young. This was
Okay.
like formative memory. I don't have very many memories before this moment of like, oh, there they are. And yeah, might have
Oh,
been
wow.
90s. I probably have the dates all wrong.
Yeah,
I'm bad at that.
I think Losing My Religion was in the 90s, and
Okay.
I don't know exactly like how old you are, but
Yeah. I would have been like 6 in 90. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a bit. So you were probably like 7 or 8
Yeah.
when this was going on. So it's very young still. I have a formative memory. It makes sense. It plays out. It works out.
Yeah.
When did you first pick up an instrument?
That's a fun story too. And it's another one of those memories of just being awestruck by live music.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom she got us pool passes for like the local hotel pool because we didn't have a pool when I was young. And so we'd go and we'd swim and she'd do her laps and we'd hang out in the pool. And I remember coming back up the escalator and it must have been happy hour because this hotel lobby had a piano player and like hors d'oeuvres and things. Excuse me. And the sound coming through this big open hotel lobby was just like heavenly. I mean, it was like, except it sounded more like a piano than that. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I beelined for it. You know, my mom's like, okay, we're going to go get some hors d'oeuvres or whatever. So she goes over there and she sees that I'm with the piano player and I'm sitting like as close as we are here, like 2 feet away, 3 feet away from this piano player and just staring, just watching her.
Oh my God.
And I sat there until the end of her set. And at the end of her set, she looked at me and she goes, do you want to play a song? And I said, yeah, I do. I'm like nodding really enthusiastically. And she goes, do you know any songs? I said, nope. Shook my head, kind of looking at her like, does that mean I can't play? Because I still want to play. And so she sat me down at that piano bench and taught me Ode to Joy right there. Yeah, so that was the first time I ever played an instrument, and
Man.
I have a vivid memory of it. She became my piano teacher for a few years after that. Cindy
Really?
Chung. I've been trying to find her. So Cindy Chung, if you're listening to this,
Please
call me. Thank you. Just thank you. Yeah, changed my life, and I inherited a little player organ from my grandmother when she passed, and yeah, just have always loved the piano. And
You play piano and guitar as well.
Yeah.
Any other ones?
Those are my main songwriting instruments, but I have a lot of peripheral instruments. I played Turkish percussion for a band called Kurikava.
What does that mean? Turkish percussion? What is that?
Yeah, we played in a folk music ensemble, and the guy that ran it said he'd never play for belly dancers. But of course, when you play Middle Eastern music in the U.S., you're going to wind up playing for belly dancers.
Right.
So think belly dance music.
Okay.
We had an instrument called a darbaka,
Okay.
which is like a goblet-shaped drum. You play, it sits across your lap. Doom, teka, teka, doom, teka, teka.
Okay.
A lot of that happened at Your Inner Vagabond, if you remember
Yes.
those days. There was a lot of drumming and dancing. I played darbuka and a rick, which is kind of like a tambourine that you play a little more intricately on the jingle part than
Okay.
on the drum head part. You play both parts, of course, but you don't just shake it. you
Okay.
know. And a couple other big drums, like a davul is a kind of sideways bass drum that you hold, kind of like a marching band drum. And it's got, so you can hit it on both sides, and it's got a high end and low end.
Okay.
Yeah, I love playing percussion. I sat down at an open stage that I host in Thomas, West Virginia, at a place called the Purple Fiddle. We have a drum kit set up for our open mics, and just it's an open mic, and by the end of the night we're all kind of jamming. And
Right.
so I sit down on the drum kit, and I'm like, I've never done this, and I think I
Oh.
had done it like once before, but it was so fun. So who knows? In 5 years, I may be a drummer.
That's amazing. So, I mean, it's obvious. Do you find it easy or a little more easy for you to pick up a new instrument, or to you just kind of feel it?
There's a learning curve when you're picking up a new style of instrument. Like, I played the clarinet as a little kid, but I tried to pick it up again as an adult. And I'm sorry to my neighbors and to any roommate I had at the time. It was just it's painful to listen to. It's like starting over. So wind instruments are not my forte,
Okay.
but I love them. So I still have the clarinet that I picked up as
Right.
an adult, and have played twice.
Well, now you're in a more rural location, so
Yes.
maybe you can start practicing.
No, it's just the chickens that mine now. They run away. Oh, what's she doing? Yeah.
Okay. So I know. All right. What was your high school experience like? Because I'd like to try to see what some of my lady friends, what their high school experience was. Because I know you mentioned before that you were 6 foot in middle school, and were you still a metal kid by the time you got to high school, or?
There were a bunch of transitions. I think that when you're growing up, you're kind of discovering who you are, who you want to be in the world. And I did a lot of that early.
Oh, okay.
In middle school is kind of when I started getting into heavy metal and harder rock, and was kind of intentionally an outsider. Mm-hmm. My personality is more like I get along with all types of people. I don't like necessarily being in one clique or one, it even goes into my music. I don't necessarily feel like I fit into one genre. And but I like it all. And I like kind of feeling it out and getting to know what's good about a person rather than, being invested in a clique.
Right.
So in middle school, I kind of pushed all that aside. I intentionally kind of said, I don't want any friends, and I'm going to go listen to my metal with my headphones, and the world can't bother me. And of course that was just the external thing. So
right.
I went through a period of time that I was pretty depressed, clinically. And,
wow.
So one thing that was going on was I was a smart kid, and when the school wasn't really fulfilling that need or letting me slip through the cracks, then I could just drop out and tune out. And it was too easy in public school to fall through those cracks.
Oh, okay.
Because then I was using my intelligence to avoid doing things,
Yes.
I loved arguing with my teachers about why I didn't actually need to do homework, because when you look at the syllabus, homework is only worth 20%. I can still get a B- if I ace all the tests. And they would be like, it was like my math teacher, and he'd be like, your math is correct, your logic is not. So there was that problem. But yeah, so my freshman year of high school, there was a lot going on for me, and it was just a really hard time in my early life. So long story short, my mom pulled me out of that school, said, this isn't the right place for you. My parents didn't feel like I was getting the right treatment or approach or
attention or.
Yeah, I mean, just the counselor's office were really pushing towards getting me into a specialized school for kids that had problems. And my mom was like, she's just smarter than everyone else that you're dealing with.
Yeah. She's bored.
She's bored. Yeah, exactly. And I in my adult life, I don't ever think I'm bored because I'm always doing something. But I think that's also part of what helped, is that I started doing things that I actually enjoyed. And for anyone that is depressed, I mean, that's the answer for me, is find something you love and go for it. That's what worked for me.
Yeah.
So she pulled me out of the school freshman year, and I went into a private school called Dana Hall and was in that school till I graduated. Smaller class sizes, you can get away with nothing. I still tried the homework trick. Some of my teachers kind of understood, and most of them said, that's fine, but we don't want you to be a C student. We want you to be an A student, because you can be. So just the support and the encouragement of that kind of smaller environment, I think, really influenced how I like to interact with other people too. It's individuals more than trends or the way that things are, when I look at a person, I say, this is a unique individual with their own special needs and wants and likes and dislikes. And instead of trying to categorize people, it didn't work for me. When people looked at me and tried to put me into the metalhead category now, and especially during my 13 years as a dreadlocked hippie, people will be like, you were a what? You were a metalhead? No. I was like, yeah, I dressed in all black with black lipstick and danced around to goth music like it was my thing. But like I said, I experimented a lot with identity as a kid, because I didn't want to be boxed into any one thing. So I would kind of try one thing out with all my might and then back away from it and try something else out. And I don't know, maybe I'm still doing that a little bit, but
I think it's really important to do that, because I mean, how do you really truly know who you are unless you've tried or failed at, this, that, or the other. It's like, oh, I think I like this. Nope. Turns out I don't. And so it's like you're not left with that wondering by the time you get like far on in life. And hopefully I'm kind of seeing that maybe this generation of kids, they're kind of no longer doing that, that boxing everybody into like a certain I mean, I don't have kids I'm not in contact with. This is just like an outsider's perspective, but it just kind of looks like it's a little less clique, jock, nerd, that kind of whole thing as it was back when I was in school and stuff. So, but yeah, I think it's really important, and it helps to make for a better, well-rounded adult if you just kind of try out and all sorts of other things.
Yeah. I say I gave my parents hell during high school, but I turned out okay. So they still did a good job. My mom's like,
it's like, how much hell could you have given? Like, just, I mean, I don't know what, attitude wise? Like, is it just like,
well, if you've ever been
like
around,
you're like a troublemaker.
Oh, I'm also 31 years old. I've grown out of most of my troublemaking habits. If you've ever lived with someone that's suffering from depression, you know how hard it is to be around. You want to do everything you can to help that person smile, and yet nothing outside of them is going to change it. So my mom is a brilliant, kind, loving woman who gave me everything she could. And eventually she just started saying things that started sticking, like, your perception is reality. Like what you think you're viewing the world as is going to become your reality. So, the best thing you can do is look at something different. Get your head out of where it is and like I said, find what you love.
Right.
Follow your bliss. Find something that makes you smile and do that instead of, like, I can focus on the negative.
Right.
So it's kind of been a life lesson for me, is the moment I start focusing on the negative, my whole world becomes negative.
Exactly.
And so how do you heal from that has been a big question in my life, because it cycles, and I'll hit points where I'll start getting depressed and I'll be like, oh, you're here again. And this one. So you're looking at something negative. You think it's the only way to be. It takes over your world, and you need to think about it differently. And it's hard from the inside, because you're still stuck in that pattern.
Right.
So,
but it's helpful. It's great to know that you have found in the past things to help you get out of that state of mind, and now you recognize.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is what's happening, and this is kind of now it's up to me to make it right. So.
I had this piano album that I put out is actually one of those things. So like I said, I learned the piano early on, and right around the time I was learning the piano, my dad passed away. And so I started using the piano as a way of coping with what I was going through, because it's not something that's easily put in words, grief and loss. But you have to move through it somehow. And when you don't, you get stuck. And I think that was part of my pattern, was I wasn't talking about it. So I was putting everything into music. So, I think that's part of why I'm still drawn to music, is it's a way of catharsis, it's a way through pain. But this piano album has a couple songs on it dedicated to two friends of mine from high school who had committed suicide. And when I think about them and how from the outside they were just these glowing rays of positivity and light and love, and I mean, amazing young women, truly just gorgeous in all levels, that had this struggle that pushed them to the point of, taking their own life. It breaks my heart on so many levels, because they're what I've learned about coming through depression and surviving that kind of thing is that you wake up every day, and they're good days. There's lots of good days that start adding up into a good life. And you don't get stuck in it quite as long or quite as deep or whatever. And you have methods of healing where they never gave themselves that option to learn about. And they're, in a way, it's when I think about that, I think about how far I've come from my depression, how far I've come from the hard times. And so even when I do have a blip, a bad day, or a bad month, you know. I eventually get out of bed and say, okay, I got to do this and like move forward, because I know how good the other side is. You know,
Right.
that's the other part about having experienced depression firsthand, is like when things are good, they're like almost too good, you know. Like things are awesome. Life is so freaking good. And the sense of gratitude is uncomparable. I mean, just to be able to say, look around and like pinch myself. Like now, my depression kind of looks like this these days, which is I'll wake up and I'll be like, I'm funky, blah, 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 I'm sad. And I'll be like, huh. And I'll open my eyes. I'll be like, okay, my life is awesome. Shut up.
That's great.
I kind of like put myself in my place and,
Right.
like, and acknowledge that like those feelings still come up, because as soon as you don't acknowledge it, then you start canning them again. And that's
Right.
when the buildup starts. So it's really important for me to tell people when I'm not doing okay. And it's also important for me to not get stuck there.
Right.
Because that's what kills. That's
Yeah.
the part that's
an excellent way to look at it, because no matter what your emotions, I think we all need to give ourselves permission to feel those emotions, good or bad, and work through it and work it out. Because yeah, you're right, when you start to press them down, that's when they're going to eventually, that top's going to give, and it's just going to be, it's just going to be too much. Do you remember, how old were you when you first performed one of your own songs in public?
Let's see. I played piano at my mom's wedding.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So my mom got married again shortly after my dad passed, maybe like a year after. And so her wedding to my stepfather, I played a song by Bette Midler called The Rose.
Oh.
And I just played it. I didn't sing it. One of her friends sang it, but I had been learning it and playing and practicing really hard. And my piano teacher was there and helped me along. And it was great. I remember it. It's being really fun. And oh yeah, I've been a performer for life. I'm just like, I love performing.
And you just you were talking earlier that you recently just decided to do musician full time, just to go ahead and cut out the bullshit and just to go straight forward ahead. How is that scary?
It's been a long road to it. I think recently I've started saying to friends, I want to be a musician. And they look at me and they go, you are a musician.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm always the last one to know these things. And I had enough of those experiences that I was like, yes, I am a musician, you know, and finally I'm starting to own it. So instead of, you know, I work for a radio station and do music on the side, or I'm a fire performer that also does music, or, you know, I work for the city, and all the things that I've done for a paycheck haven't defined me as much as my art has. So now that I'm kind of changing the story in my head, it's obvious, you know, I'm making enough of an income being a musician to call it a job. So the change has really just been in language. The process has been getting to the point where I know it in my heart.
No, I agree. I've kind of been that same thing myself. It's like, you know, everything I do on the side, those are all the things that I'm super passionate about and whatnot. But for me to call myself an artist or a photographer or whatever, it just never really happens. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I do for a living. But I, you know, kind of do this stuff on the side, and it is a difficult thing to everybody else around you is like, yes, this is what you're doing. This is what you are. This is what, you know, your job doesn't define you. What you are excited to do for no pay whatsoever, that's kind of what.
And starting to put a value on that, because after you've been doing that for a certain amount of time, you start realizing like, oh, you know, it's this question mark of what's on the other side of the equation. Art equals what?
Right.
You know, so if I'm doing it just for me, then yeah, it doesn't need to equal money. It doesn't need to equal fame. It doesn't need to equal something else. And that's a great place to be. When you kind of have been doing it your whole life and you start to realize like art equals my livelihood, whether I'm making an income from it or not. There's a certain point where I think the dialogue has to switch to give the art the respect it deserves, of like, yes, my art can be my livelihood and I can earn a living wage from it. I can earn income from it.
Because, you know, living in this world costs
Oh,
Wait,
good Lord. I am. Let me back up. I like my philosophies. You can pretty much sum up by like the Burning Man principles. Like a gifting economy is how I want to live.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
Radical self-reliance, all about it.
Right.
However,
barter system, sure, let's.
yeah, right. I mean, everyone has something to give, and that's like the culture of abundance that you hear about in like self-help books and whatever.
Right.
It's like, think about it as a culture of abundance. It's like that's great, but you're swimming upstream because our super culture, our overculture, really wants us to need things and wants us to participate. And so it's a consumer culture and an economic culture. And I think there's a difference. There's a big difference between the two.
Right.
The consumer culture is about, you know, creating need. You need this hair product.
You'll
you
be
need
happy. You'll
these
be
shoes.
special. Yes.
You will be somebody.
Right.
You know, it's like we fucking all are somebody.
Right.
Shut up. You know, and so that overculture, the culture of need and consumerism, dictates that you have to be a certain thing to be successful. And I think that's a thing that all artists struggle with is, well, and all people in general, I have to be a certain way in order to call myself a success.
Right.
And I think it's a lie.
Yeah.
And I think it's a dangerous lie because it creates an ever-present need. I'm always sitting there going, oh, well, I want to be a musician, but I'm not. And meanwhile, like you said, everyone outside of me is saying, you're a musician, Emay, shut up and be real.
Exactly.
But then I look at them and I say, and you were a writer. And they're like, nah.
Right. Yes. It's just like, no, not me. I don't mean that about me. It's you.
Just because I get published all the time and I still work for this venture capitalist firm. It's like, shut up. You're a writer. You are the funniest, most hilarious person I know. And that's what you are.
Right.
So, you know, the need consumer culture gives us this thing about who we're supposed to be and gives us like 10 roles for that.
Yeah.
For like the 6 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
7 billion
exactly.
people. We can't all fit in that.
No.
So if I can impose my belief on people, the one belief I would want to impose is we are all meant to be who we are. We're exactly where we need to be now to get to where we need to be. And our path is our own.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing we need to do is be on our path and follow our path and fuck the haters.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, that is the way we should be living by. Like, listen to yourself, listen to your heart, and everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of, and you know, even if you are going through a shitty point in your life or a shitty time, there's a reason for that. You just need to pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to surroundings, and
yeah, there's always a lesson.
Right.
Like I was talking about with the depression, you know, there's always a lesson in pain. And so now when I feel those painful feelings, I'm like, I look for the lesson.
Right.
I look for what I can learn from it. And because I've been practicing this for a long time, now I can find the lesson quicker, which is part of why I can get out of it quicker.
Right.
You know, usually. But so there's the two sides of culture, right? There's the what was I calling it? The consumer culture, and then there's the economic culture. And I think that artists, in order to escape that sense of consumer culture, need to embrace their worth in an economic culture by saying, this is what I'm worth.
Yes, my time is of value.
Right. And it just it makes money, it returns it to a barter system instead of a hierarchy of class.
Right.
You know, I have put in this much time doing this. This is what I charge per hour.
Right.
You know, this is what I charge per piece of artwork. This is what I charge per, journal.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's starting to become more of a thing where, you know, more artists are like, you know, this whole exposure, you want me to play for exposure, or you want me to do this for exposure, is not cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
cut my hair for exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, so it's like
plumb my toilets for exposure.
Right, exactly. It's like, yes, if you do a great job on, you know, on fixing that leak in my kitchen, then I will tell everybody, and you know, it'll be great. But yeah, so I love the fact that more artists are now like paying attention to that and realizing that, yes, you know, that photo that you took or the painting that you made, the music that you're playing, it is absolutely worth something, because you as an artist have taken so much time, blood, sweat, and tears to learn this craft, for one, to have somebody want to have it, to actually do it, to complete to write the song, to play the music, to paint the portrait. And then let's talk about the materials that go along into that. So it's just like it all, yes, we are doing this, artists are doing this because they love to do it, but it's still, things cost things.
Yeah.
Things cost money.
I feel like I think about it a little bit differently, which is like, you have to love it to be an artist. Otherwise, you're going to get a job because it's easier.
Right.
You're going to just put yourself in the grind and do the normal thing because it's way easier. Being an artist involves more blood, sweat, and tears, more, on stage humiliation, which is like most people's biggest fear. Most people look at what I do and they go, it's amazing. I could never do that.
Well, you're bearing your soul.
Right. And I think people's actual literal number one fear, like they've surveyed this, it's not spiders, it's talking in public. So mine is spiders, not speaking in public. And I love it. I love being on stage. So it's like, there's this balance between what am I worth and what am I willing to put all of my worth into. I give a good majority of the time and effort in my life towards this, whether it's seeing live music, being a part, meeting other musicians, playing, writing, practicing. I give a huge amount of my time to it because I love it. Now, when it comes to being a professional artist, you have to have a good business mind or people supporting you that do. And I'm kind of in a position where I have a little bit of both. I know how to charge for my time. I know how, someone calls me and says, hey, what's your fee? I have a fee.
Right.
I don't say, oh, I don't know. What
What's
can you
in
pay
your
me?
budget?
Yeah. I don't say, oh yeah, I'll just do it. I say, this is what I'm worth. And some people say, okay, no problem. Great. That's awesome. They like the fee. Right. And some people say, you're a musician and you're charging me money. I'll get my nephew to come play and he'll play a set. I'm like, that's great. Right. It's really, I like to relate it to fire spinning when I think about it as music. Because someone calls me up and they say, hey, we want you to come spin fire at our gala. What's your fee? And I say my price and they say, oh, well, we know a fire spinner that'll do it for $50, $100, he'll do it for dinner and exposure.
So call him.
I said, great. Is he insured? Because I am. Has he been doing this for 10 years without incident of fire needing insurance? I have.
Okay, so fire spinning.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, I do that too.
When did this come about? Like, first of all, that's one of those things where I have always been and I've seen you do it and you're great at it, but I've always like, how does one even start? Like, how does the practice?
You have to be born crazy, first of all. Check, got that box. Let me set the scene for you. It's, what would it be? 1999. And I'm like 15 years old and at my first ever music festival. And it's at this beautiful place in, the Berkshire Mountains in Western Massachusetts. And it's late at night and we're partying and I am sitting on a hillside and all of a sudden this girl in all white, like beautiful flowing white gown starts spinning cans of flaming fuel around her head. This is like the old school style of fire spinning where you're actually spinning fuel, not like a lit wick. And I just like zoom. I was at the bottom of the hill and I just like kneeled in front of her for like as long as she was there, the next 20 minutes or whatever.
I love how there's like a common introduction to like the other things that you love. Is like there's like immediate. You're like,
oh my god, yeah.
You're just like there.
Yeah, and that's right. I think I definitely encourage people to find that thing that just makes them not able to turn their head away. And like, I couldn't leave her. I wanted to love her or be her. I wasn't sure. Both at the same time. And I told myself then I am going to learn how to do that. I was 15.
Whoa.
Fast forward, I was like just about to graduate from college, and a friend of mine called me up and he said, hey, I'm going to this party with a grad student from CMU and she's a fire spinner. You want to come? I said, yes.
Immediately, yes.
Yes. I got there. I watched her spin. I approached her. I said, hey, will you teach me? And she said, yeah. That was the next fire spinner I saw. So it had been that long and it was just that effective still. Yeah. As I got into it, I realized I had been dancing a little bit. I was never a dancer as a kid. I was always into competitive sports and I became a dancer as an adult. Through the Middle Eastern percussion that I was doing, I started hanging out with belly dancers and seeing belly dance concert, and like, again, fell in love, just
Right.
saw it and was like, "Ugh, I want to be you, Olivia Kissel, you know, and just watched and wound up studying with Olivia in this case.
Okay.
And just magnetized to this, I don't know, what I would call this kind of primal expression. You find it in music. You find it in dance. I mean, fire is like the elemental version of it. And all art has that. All art that has the capacity to touch us individually has that for us. So, you know, I can see something that someone drew just on a coffee table napkin, and it can be like, this. You get so excited. It's this. So yeah, I'm kind of getting away from the question of fire spinning, but I love fire spinning. I mean, just, I've always loved watching it. I've always loved being around it. And I kind of go in waves of it because I turned it into a profession, I think, maybe a little sooner than I would have.
Okay.
Because it was easy. People, you know, oh, you're a fire spinner. They call you up. Hey, you want to come spin fire?
Well, it can't be like it's a very common person to find, someone that can spin fire.
Yeah, and it's still, you know, I'm immersed in the community, so I could name 20 fire spinners that you could call if you want, but
there's no way I could.
Right.
You. That's what I know.
Yeah.
That's who I know.
And so, yeah, we're still pretty rare. You know a lot of musicians. You might know a lot of graphic designers or whatever. But yeah, it's not too many fire spinners comparatively.
So you said you spin wicks?
Yeah.
And so, I mean...
I spin a prop. The main prop is called a poi, or just poi, P-O-I. They're wicks, usually made of Kevlar, dipped in white gas or kerosene, lit on fire, and spun around your head.
Good Lord. So
that's what my mom said. You're doing what? I went to Costa Rica to study with a guy named Nick Woolsey. He runs he runs playpoi.com, and he's just fantastic. And I went to study with him, and when I told my mom what I was doing, she was like, "There's no way I can get you to change your mind." I said, "Nope."
So you haven't had any like accidents or close calls with the fire?
I practiced for months, and my boyfriend at the time.
Now you practiced without a flame.
Yes.
At first.
Oh, right. Yeah. Back up. Let me set this picture a little bit better. I practiced without a poi, without a flame, practice poi for several months every day out in my front yard. And my boyfriend at the time would sit there, and every time I hit myself in the face or the knee or the belly or the back, he'd go, "You're on fire." I'd be like, "Thanks." And it helped because I learned not to hit myself.
Right.
So that's the thing. Hey, Maddie. Practice is definitely something that I value in all of my art forms because it's the same thing. You're up on stage playing guitar and you hit a wrong chord and
you're on fire.
And you're on fire. Yeah. Everyone now thinks you suck. You don't want that. You don't want to be on fire. You don't want people to think you're a horrible guitarist. You want to survive and be okay. Hi, my friend. But yeah, fire spinning. So I practiced for a long time before ever lighting it up, and teach now. And that's how I teach. I teach people how to spin poi. You know, people are like, "I want to take fire spinning lessons." I'm like, "Great. I want to teach you poi spinning lessons." And eventually we'll light them on fire if you can practice that much. I won't teach someone who's not willing to practice.
Yeah. No, God, no. Yeah. You would absolutely don't want that on your conscience or your insurance.
Or my insurance, for sure.
What's the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Oh, that's that's a big question. I think if I had one, I guess I've kind of given you a few snippets of my like deep beliefs throughout. I want to leave a couple killer musical albums, which I don't feel like I've gotten to yet. Yeah. I still feel like they're in front of me. I feel like I've written some okay songs and done all right, but I feel like my best work as a musician is still ahead of me. I want to leave behind a legacy of love and support for friends and people that I'm around. We're so isolated in what we do. We have our jobs, we get on our bus with our headphones, we're on our pods and our pads, and we're just like, we're in our little bubbles. Yeah. The most important part of my life are my friends, the people that I care about, the fans that come up after shows and say, "Your music really touched me." the kids that are so excited when we're spinning fire. Oh my God. And, you know, and the animals and the people. And I'm just like, you know, I want to remind us all that we're connected, that no one is any better than anyone else and no one's any worse than anybody else. And that we all just have our stories that we're living through, you know, and it's our journey, but we are not doing it alone. That there's always people around that love us and care about us more than we usually know ourselves. People who think way more highly of us than we do most days, or are way more willing to support us than we ever feel like we deserve. I mean, this particular trip to Pittsburgh has been a great reminder of how much love and support I have in my life.
That's great.
There's just people that will stand behind me because I stand behind them, because I give them something, whether it's my creative art or my friendship or, you know, my conversation. It's, I want my legacy to be, she stitched the net a little bit tighter.
I like that. What haven't you done yet that you want to do?
Everything.
Yeah, it's like, there's so much.
I have a mentor in LA, and he gave me this sentiment, which is, and to set the scene a little bit, we were talking about the fact that I had just picked up ceramics. I was starting to, you know, spin pots on a wheel.
Like you're throwing clay.
Yeah. It was actually my first introduction to spinning things in circle that would eventually be in fire. I went from that to glass blowing, which is like actually playing with molten things, to like just straight to spinning fire.
Just like, I'm going to just go straight to fire and just be done with it.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a progression in there.
Right.
And then so I go back to spinning pots, and it was great, and I loved it. And I wound up spending like a couple weeks taking a class. And I told him this. I was like, you know, I really want to dedicate myself to music, but I find myself doing all these other things. And he goes, good. And this is like a guy that's like managed hundreds of artists in LA. And he looks at me, he goes, good. Use it all up before you die.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay. So now that rings through my head all the time. I mean, every time I'm doing something and I'm like, why am I doing it? I'm like, oh, I'm just using it up.
Yes.
I got a little bit of this in me. I'm going to do it. So I forget what the question was, but that's my answer.
Okay. That works. Totally works. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of Emay?
I have a pretty big regimen of things that I do. You know, like I said, I'm a survivor of depression, and because of that, it's really important for me to take care of myself from the inside out. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I know what happens when I do. It does not help a person with depression. Let me tell you that. I still drink coffee. That helps sometimes. So I like to take care of my body first. I try to eat well. You know, I live on a farm. We grow most of our own food. I live a pretty clean lifestyle. I like to exercise. I like to do yoga. I like hiking, and I teach snowboarding in the wintertime.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to hit you up for
Heck yeah.
instructions. That's one of the things that I'm wanting to learn how to do.
Yeah, it's necessary for me in the wintertime because, you know, the winter blues hits. If you're stuck in the house, like, no way. I have learned I need to be outside in the winter. I need to get exercise in the winter.
Yeah.
So I find that if I'm taking care of my body, and then I do things like meditate, I have a meditation practice that I do. I make it a point to spend time with people that I love, that I, you know, that need my help and that I need their help, or that we just want to socialize. You know, there's all of the above.
Right.
Plenty of reasons to see other people. Practicing gratitude, remembering the things that I'm grateful for. So as far as taking care of myself, I'm pretty vigorous about that.
It sounds you've got a great plan.
Yeah. If I'm not taking care of myself, no one else is. So
absolutely.
That's, you know, and that if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm of no use to anyone else.
Truth.
So that's kind of my baseline before I ever pick up a guitar in the day. And music helps, and art helps. I mean, talk about a beautiful way to heal and to move through. I kind of think of art more as catharsis, like emoting and expressing.
Right.
I think the healing happens with other people.
wrap me in your finest furs and drew me into your little world. You gave me a crown before you tore me down, and bone by bone you rid me of my skin. When you were done, you strung necklaces. Now my gift to you, my king, hangs from your mistress's collarbone. And here I am, dressed in her finery, black cheeks, cold heart. What do you want from me? I gave you everything, you gave me costume jewelry. Those diamonds in your eyes, they remind me just you've crossed the line. And when we're alone, you tell me they are still mine. But here I am, dressed in her finery, black cheeks, cold love. What do you want from me? I gave you everything, and you gave me all her jewelry. Here I am, dressed in her finery, black cheeks, cold love. What do you want from me? I gave you everything, and you gave me all her jewelry. Oh. Those bones, oh, those bones, oh, those
Okay, we're back, and Miss Emay is going to play a song for us. What is this song? Which song is this?
I will play a song that's on the piano album
Okay.
on the guitar. This is a song called Oak, Poplar, Pine, and it's just another one of those crazy things that goes on in the world. There's a thing called mountaintop removal. That is something that the
Mountaintop removal?
yeah, they call it strip mining, you know, they call it all kinds of things. But when you break it down, it's mountaintop removal. You take the top of a mountain. So when you hear people talk about the coal industry, you know, and they're saving coal and they're fighting for coal, or, you know, we're working against it. You know, there's definitely people fighting on both sides. Just think about the mountains that you look out over and you say, wow, and you get awestruck and you're like connected to something bigger than yourself and natural world. And then you realize that there's a place in rural West Virginia where companies come in and they just take the tops off the mountains and they plant a couple trees and they move on, and they take their money and they ruin water and streams. And, you know, some people fight for it because it's jobs, it's money. You know, they can be really good paying jobs, of course.
Right.
You know, most jobs that hurt people are.
Exactly.
Your conscience, your soul,
Yep.
here's some dollars. But it's also a livelihood that people have been involved in for generations. So it's like one of those cycles that is just going to be a really hard thing to come to any kind of compromise on. Being a nature lover like I am, it's hard. And the song was co-written with a guy named Nathan Sams from Buchanan, West Virginia. It's called Oak, Poplar, Pine.
Okay.
Sitting at the old homestead, hearing voices in the rain. Asking all these questions, but I've no answers to explain. All the hills have turned to rust now, just like an old metal sign. Like apple cider vinegar turns from homemade wine, and it's the same down by the river that flows below the mine, where we've cut down all of the spruce trees, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine. So I ask, does it even matter? In the long run over time, if these mountains reach the valley, one day we'll all reach back towards the sky. And it's the same down by the river that flows below the mine, where we've cut down all of the spruce trees, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, yes, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine. Oh, Lord, look what we've done. Oh, what is going on? Oh, oh. It's the same for me and you, dear. If there's just one thing we know, we must stay in this moment, for there may be no evermore. And it's the same down by the river that flows below the mine, where we've cut down all of the spruce trees, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine. Oh yes, it's the same down by the river that flows below the mine. Yes, where we've cut down all of the spruce trees, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, all the oak, all the poplar, all the pine, oh.
That was beautiful.
Thanks.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. It's fun for me to play songs on piano or on guitar that I normally play on piano.
Yeah. I guess I'm to understand that the sheet music for guitar and piano are
They're a little different.
oh, okay. Because I was
They're the
that
same.
you can. Yeah. Okay.
There's two versions. On a guitar, you can do something called tablature, which is really set up just for a guitar. You couldn't read other music on that unless you knew it already.
Gotcha.
It looks like a fretboard.
Okay.
And you just kind of put a number on the fret.
Gotcha.
So you know what to play. So
Right.
it's like kind of like ABC versus like actually reading music.
Okay.
But it's great. It's meant for guitar. Normal sheet music, yeah, works for both. If you know how to read it, a lot of immature musicians don't ever learn that.
Yeah.
If they're playing guitar, they might not have to.
Right. Well, yeah, that song, that was really beautiful. And your voice, my God, it's so distinctive and it's so soothing. Like, I really love your voice, your singing voice.
Thanks. I like singing. It works out for both of us.
All right, so you want to get into some random questions here?
Sure.
All right, let's see. Professor. All right. What album can you listen to from beginning to end?
Ooh, that's my favorite thing to do with good albums. I listen to any of Dawes albums. They're like a group out of California, kind of rock outfit.
Nice.
Just great, amazing songwriters. I can listen to any of their albums beginning to end. Joanna Newsom has a few albums I can do the same thing to. Basically, once I get into an album, it's hard to get me to stop listening to it all the way through. I'm like, less of an iPod shuffler as I am like a compulsive album listener.
Gotcha. And you just kind of listen to it on repeat?
Yeah. Jason Isbell's new album I listen to like crazy. Anything. I told my partner recently, I said, I feel like I'm a scientist. I'm actually like trying to break the code of what this music is saying. Like, what's really going on here? What are the quantum physics behind this music? So I kind of feel less like an artist and more like a scientist when I'm playing other people's music,
Right.
at least, because it's so fascinating. So I'll like listen to the album nonstop in my car on my iPod, and then I'll get home and I'll learn all the songs on the album on my guitar and like just saturate in music like that.
That's great. What's your favorite color?
All of them.
Okay. Are you usually late, early, or right on time?
Despite what you may think. I like to be early or right on time most of the time. Every once in a while I fail miserably at that.
Favorite pizza topping?
Pineapple.
Favorite word?
Exuberant. At the moment.
Okay. Do you still own any cassette tapes?
I own mini cassette tapes.
Okay.
Like the things that, like back when I used to talk to myself
Yes.
on my cassette tape player.
Right.
I had mini cassettes, so I have a ton of those. I actually have songs from me and my dad singing along together from when I was like a really little kid on cassette tape, mini cassettes.
That's
I have a few of those.
What was your first job?
I worked as a gopher in a gas station. Gopher was actually my official title, although
Really?
I don't know if it made it on the paycheck. But basically, I was too young to actually work for them, so I just
Okay.
like did the filing work and like backroom. I was, could do all the math, and pretty quickly they had me like up at the counter, even though I probably wasn't supposed to do that either.
Were you like 14? 15?
Yeah, I was 14, and which was
Yeah.
probably not okay at the time, but whatever. I wanted a job, and then I worked at a record store. That was my second job. That was my favorite.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That must have been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Last book you read?
Carl Jung's Synchronicity and Acausal Connecting Principle.
Huh. That's heavy. A little light reading?
A little light reading before bed, yeah.
Favorite song to sing?
All of them? That's going to be my answer for a lot of this. Everything I can do.
Oh.
Right now, I've been singing a lot of Leonard Cohen's famous Blue Raincoat.
Oh, okay.
Sincerely, L. Cohen. Except I don't end it that way.
Would you survive a zombie apocalypse?
Absolutely. I live in West Virginia.
Celebrity.
Zombies not welcome here.
Celebrity you would love to have dinner with?
None of them? No, just kidding.
Alive or dead?
I think I got a chance to do that. Kind of. I got to hang out with Alanis Morissette for a week, and
Really?
she is my idol. And I didn't know that, but she was the first female artist that truly rocked on the radio in Boston when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people would kind of throw back to Janis Joplin or Grace Slick or whatever,
Right.
but there was no one that rocked like Alanis Morissette that was alive and on the radio when I was, 13 years old or
Yeah,
however old I was.
probably.
Again, bad at math, but
I still listen to Jagged Little Pill.
Jagged Little, yeah, it just celebrated 20 years. So
Oh,
I would
wow.
have been 11 when that came out. And I remember hearing it and just being like, I want you to, and I was like, oh my God, who is this woman? I got a chance to study with her in August. I went to
Really?
California to a place called Esalen. It's a retreat center in Big Sur, California. And she'd been going there for 20 years, and then she decided to teach a workshop. And I just kind of, on a whim, was like, oh, yeah, I know Alanis Morissette, and this workshop sounds great. It was like exploring your shadow side and dance and music and art and Esalen. I love Esalen. So
Wow, that
I
sounds
went.
weird.
And I got a chance to sing her one of her own songs with a backing chorus of 100 people who had just spent a week
Wow.
with her. And it was way better than having dinner.
Yeah, I would imagine so. That's awesome. Do you know any jokes?
Also, I want to have dinner with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Plug.
Do you know any jokes?
Not any good ones. Well, I know a really good knock knock joke, but you have to start it.
I have to start it?
Yeah.
Okay. Knock, knock. You're a jerk.
It's the funniest joke I know.
I can't stand you. I can't believe I
You love
fell
me.
for that.
Everyone does, don't worry. Someone actually then when she said knock knock, it's like, who's there? And they were like, orange? It's like, now you're telling. Anyways, it was funny.
What makes you bored?
Oh, political discussions on television that have nothing to do with politics. People that have no interest in having the conversation that we're in the middle of. Job interviews for jobs that suck. Most television shows. Most shopping experiences.
Yeah, shopping. What is your favorite part of the human face and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Smiles, because it engages so much of the face. I think, when our eyes and our mouth and our nose and our chins and our eyebrows all kind of connect in expression. So expression is my favorite part, whether
That's a
it's
good
smiling
one.
or not.
That's a good one. Your favorite cartoon?
I don't know. I really liked South Park in college, but I also really got high a lot in college. So
That would explain that.
it was less, I would probably be bored by it now. I feel like I should have a favorite cartoon. I really like the version of Neil Gaiman's Everywhere or Neverwhere. Oh my God. Yeah. See, I don't. Okay, yeah. Bad question.
Okay,
I
that's
don't
fine.
do cartoons.
That's fine. Can you do any accents?
I can barely do a Boston accent, which is where I grew up. No, I have zero accent capabilities.
I feel like
peu de français. I can, when I'm speaking in another language, I can usually adopt the accent with it.
So you speak French?
Un petit peu.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Can you drive a stick?
No.
Do you-
Badly. No one wants me to drive their stick. Yeah, I get the concept, but I haven't perfected the art by any means.
Do you remember your dreams?
Only when they're really, really bizarre. Or if I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I'll spout them out and then get told about them the next day.
Have any of them ever made it to like lyrics in your songs or anything like that?
They've made them into poetry. Concepts might make it into songs, but no, not directly.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Black.
Last movie you saw in the theater?
Star Wars.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The ability to press pause on time.
Nice. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
You never get tired of blank.
Meeting new people.
If I gave you a plane ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Right now, Bali.
Describe yourself in one word.
Colorful.
And that's your podcast.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you. This is so
Thank
fun.
you so much. Yes, I'm glad you had a good time. I enjoyed it. And this is the first time I've ever had anyone play a live song on it. So
Yay.
thanks for that. Thanks for breaking that barrier. Where can everybody get one, the longest dream or 3 seasons.
Where can people get them some Emay?
Get some Emay. Get some Emay in your life.
My website is my full name, Erika May with a K, ErikaMay.com. My Bandcamp is emaymusic.bandcamp.com. And if you Facebook or Google search Emay, then chances are I'll show up.
You'll be the one to pop up.
Yeah. There is actually another Emay from Canada, and he's like a hip hop artist, and he's young and cool and writes some really interesting stuff and good beats. And
spelled like you?
Spelled exactly the same way. And I said, all right, we better be friends so we don't eventually become enemies once we're like fighting for our name. So I said, we should just be friends. Do you want to collaborate? So I sent him some stems for some tracks, and who knows, there might be the Emay Square project.
I was just going to say.
If you search for Emay, you're either going to find me or him, and they're both worth liking. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Erika, for doing this and for talking to me.
You,
I really enjoyed getting to know you much better and reconnecting, spending some time with you.
Asking some great questions and letting me be a part of this. It's really an honor.
And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at @the_RuggedAngel, and you can check out past episodes at RuggedAngel.com, iTunes, SoundCloud. Rugged Angel is one word. And remember, whatever you do, do it with passion or not at all.
Amen.